Hi, you're on the Reddit Confessions channel. Part 1. The empty chair had more respect than she did. The weirdest part? There were 3 chairs at the table. I booked it for 2, Dana and me, our 5-year anniversary. But when the hostess led me over, there were 3 chairs set up neatly by the window, like the universe already knew I wasn't going to be enough that night. I should have left the moment I saw that 3rd chair. Instead, I sat down and started arranging silverware, like that would somehow fix the ache in my chest. My hands were shaking, but I told myself it was just the cold, or the coffee, or maybe the creeping suspicion I'd been trying to smother for months. She arrived 22 minutes late, in a dress I hadn't seen before, the kind that looks expensive even if it's not. And behind her, like some arrogant punctuation mark, came him. He pulled her chair out before I could stand, sat in the 3rd chair like it belonged to him, like I didn't. Dana gave me a look I've never seen in 12 years together. Not apologetic, not embarrassed. Just blank. Like she couldn't process why I looked surprised. She actually said, "You remember Colton, right?" "No, Dana, I don't." She acted like he'd always been part of our story, like I should have expected him to join our anniversary dinner. I nodded. Because I always nod. Because that's what you do when you're the type of man people forget to consider. He was all teeth and confidence, talking about the new expansion and Q3 projections, whatever that means. I smiled politely while Dana giggled like a girl on a first date. It was our anniversary, but I wasn't the one holding her attention. At some point, I think around the appetizers, I stopped pretending to care. I just watched them, her fingers brushing his arm, the way he leaned closer, voice low and smug. The way she laughed, not like how she laughs at home, forced and tired, but the kind of laugh that makes strangers look over. That table didn't feel like mine anymore. Then something happened, something small, something stupid. He made a joke about the wine. It wasn't even funny. Something about the region being pretentious. Dana laughed so hard she snorted. And that broke something in me. I reached for my wallet, didn't say a word. Pulled out my card and flagged the server. Dana blinked. "Wait, what are you doing?" I smiled. Not the real kind. The kind you use when you're crumbling but don't want anyone to see it. "Just covering dinner," I said. Colton chuckled. "Appreciate it, man." I stood up, looked at Dana one last time, and I said something I didn't even plan. "Hope the 3rd chair treats you better than I did." Then I walked out. No one followed me. Not even her. I didn't cry. Not until I got home and saw the half-written card I'd left on her pillow with the words, "To many more years," still staring up at me like a punchline. I didn't sleep that night, not even for a second. I just lay there on the couch, staring at the ceiling fan, trying to figure out how we ended up here. How a woman who once used to squeeze my hand at red lights now laughed with another man at our anniversary dinner. I waited for a message, a knock, a call, anything, but the house stayed silent, and so did she. I heard her come in sometime around 1:20 a.m. I didn't move. The front door clicked, her heels whispered across the hardwood. And then, nothing. No apology, no, "Ellery, let me explain." Not even a sigh. Just the creak of our bedroom door closing. She didn't even check if I was still awake or still alive. By morning, I had convinced myself she'd left a note. Something honest, something full of regret. Maybe even just the truth. I walked into the bedroom expecting an envelope, or maybe her sitting on the edge of the bed crying. But no, she was asleep, sprawled across the bed like a satisfied cat, still wearing that dress, still reeking of him. My side of the bed hadn't even been touched. I didn't say anything. I couldn't. So I went to work, numb, sat in traffic like a zombie, listened to voicemail messages that didn't matter. Smiled at coworkers as if I hadn't just watched my marriage flatline in public. I'm a junior accountant. Nobody notices when you're dead inside, as long as the spreadsheets balance. At lunch, I texted her, "We need to talk." 2 hours passed. Nothing. I sent another, "Can you at least tell me who he is?" Still nothing. At 5:42 p.m., she replied with 6 words. "You're overreacting." It was dinner. As if dragging a man to our anniversary wasn't a choice. As if sitting between us, flirting like we were invisible, was something I invented out of paranoia. As if love could be erased by one meal and a polished smile. I sat in the parking lot outside our building for almost 40 minutes. I watched people laugh, hug, kiss, fight, make up, all the normal, messy signs of life. I envied them. At least they were trying. At least someone showed up for them. I finally walked inside, half hoping Dana would be waiting, ready to cry, ready to be real. Instead, she was on the couch with her laptop, earbuds in, watching something. When she saw me, she paused it, pulled out one earbud, and said, "Hey." That was it. Not, "Hey, I'm sorry." Not, "Hey, let's talk." Just, "Hey." So I did something I never thought I'd do. I said nothing back. I walked past her, straight to the bedroom. I shut the door behind me and sat on the floor, and I cried into a pillow so she wouldn't hear how broken I'd become. The next few days were like living with a polite stranger. Dana barely spoke, but she wasn't hostile, just vacant. She'd nod when I said good morning, give half smiles over dinner, but we didn't talk. Not really, and she didn't bring up the dinner, not the third chair, not Colton, not the laugh that cracked my spine in two. Nothing. It was like she'd deleted the memory and expected me to do the same. I became hypersensitive to everything. The way her phone was always face down, how she'd pause her screen when I walked by, how she started playing music through her headphones instead of the Bluetooth speaker we used to share. Our house had always been full of soft jazz, mellow indie tracks, little songs we both hummed without realizing. But now, she was locked in her own world of silence, except for those headphones. I noticed something strange on Saturday. She left her phone on the kitchen counter while she took a shower. I didn't plan to snoop, I swear I didn't. But Spotify was open, still playing. I glanced at the title, Somebody Else by the 1975. I know, it could have meant anything. But when I tapped to see the cue, my stomach turned. Every song was about heartbreak, betrayal, cheating, starting over, secret love. I wasn't crazy. The playlist was a confession she didn't have the courage to say out loud. That night I confronted her, not with anger, but with pain. I said, "Are you in love with him?" She blinked slowly, like I had spoken in another language. Then she looked away and said, "Ellery, you're always so dramatic." "Then tell me I'm wrong," I said, my voice barely a whisper. She didn't. That silence, it echoed louder than any scream. I felt like someone had cut a wire in my chest, and I was bleeding emotion without making a sound. I walked out, took my coat, left the house, ended up driving without direction for hours. I parked near the lake, where we used to have coffee on Sundays. The benches were wet from earlier rain. I sat there anyway, my jeans soaking through, because the cold somehow felt more honest than anything Dana had said in days. At some point, I opened my phone and searched Colton on LinkedIn. I found him, marketing director. Lots of photos of him shaking hands, standing in front of glass buildings, pretending to change the world one campaign at a time. And in one post, from 2 weeks ago, Dana was tagged, no caption. Just a picture of them smiling in front of a conference banner. She didn't tell me about that trip. She said it was a boring training session. My hands were trembling again. But this time, it wasn't coffee or cold. It was the quiet collapse of trust. And I was the only one still holding the pieces. Sunday morning came with sunlight that felt like a mockery. Dana was humming in the kitchen like everything was fine, like the night at the restaurant hadn't happened, like I hadn't asked her if she loved someone else and watched her say nothing. I sat at the dining table, watching her pour coffee, wearing the same robe I bought her last Christmas. She asked if I wanted toast. Toast. As if burnt bread could rebuild whatever remained between us. I said no. She left the room humming. And that's when I did it. I wish I could say I resisted, that I held on to my dignity, that I respected privacy and boundaries. But love turns to desperation quietly. You don't even notice it until you've crossed a line and can't go back. Her laptop was open on the counter, locked but not shut down. I knew her password, or rather, I remembered it. The name of her childhood dog and her college graduation year. She hadn't changed it, not even now. I sat down, typed it in, and hit enter. Her desktop appeared like a stage being lit in front of me. Folders, tabs, emails, messages. I didn't go through everything. I wasn't looking to get lost. Just one confirmation. One sign that I wasn't insane. That she really had left me emotionally and was just too cowardly to say it. I opened her email. At first it was clean. Work stuff, promotions, sales, newsletters. And then, buried in the middle of her inbox, a thread titled, our timing. My heart sank. I clicked. It was Colton. The first message was from her. You're right. I feel alive when I'm with you, but it's not that simple. His reply, then make it simple. Walk away from what's not working. We'll figure it out. And then her again. I'm scared. He's not a bad person. He just disappeared in the relationship. It's like living with a shadow. There it was, my heart, cracked open, served in her words. She hadn't told him I cheated or hurt her. I hadn't. She didn't say I was cruel. She just said I was a shadow. Like fading love was enough of a crime to erase 12 years of loyalty. And still, she hadn't left. I closed the laptop, slowly, deliberately. Like I was trying to put the monster back in its cage. My hands were cold, my jaw was clenched so tight it hurt. She came back into the room, sipping coffee, still humming. I looked at her and saw a stranger in familiar skin. Everything okay? She asked. Yeah, I said. Just checking some bills. Lie. She nodded and smiled like I was exactly the man she thought I'd always be. Harmless, quiet, blind. But something had shifted inside me. Not rage, not yet. Just the heavy, sinking understanding that love doesn't die with a scream. It dies with a shrug. And maybe the worst betrayal wasn't that she had feelings for someone else. It was that she didn't even think I deserved the truth. The next shift came in the form of a bag, a glossy white one, folded neatly on the passenger seat of Dana's car, with gold tissue paper puffing out of the top like a secret that didn't quite fit. She wasn't home when I noticed it. Her car was in the driveway, keys still in the bowl by the door, but she had gone for a quick walk to clear her head. That was her latest phrase. She'd been using it like a permission slip for disappearing. I wasn't planning to go near her car. I really wasn't. But when I walked by the window and saw that bag, just sitting there like it wanted to be found, something inside me whispered, "Look." And for once, I listened. I opened the passenger door slowly, careful not to trigger anything that would beep or click. The smell hit me first, not hers. Something musky, expensive, definitely not the lavender vanilla she always wore. I leaned in and pulled the bag closer. It was from a boutique in the city, one of those stores where everything costs more than a full grocery trip. Inside was a folded navy blue sweater, a brand new leather watch, and a small black envelope with a handwritten card inside. It read, "For the man who reminds me what breathing feels like. -D quote." I froze. There was no name, but there didn't have to be. She didn't buy that for me. I don't wear watches. And Dana hasn't called me anything romantic in months, let alone something as poetic as "the man who reminds me what breathing feels like." My stomach twisted as I searched the bottom of the bag for a receipt. It was tucked beneath the sweater, folded neatly like everything else in her life. The date, last Friday. The day she claimed she was working late and stayed at a hotel because of early meetings downtown. I sat in her car for 20 minutes, holding that card like it might burn a hole through my palm. I could have waited for her to return, confronted her right there on the porch, thrown the bag on the hood of the car, and demanded answers. But I didn't. I left it untouched, placed everything back exactly as it was, closed the door softly. Because the version of me she'd written off, the harmless, soft-spoken man she could lie to without blinking, still hadn't finished processing what the hell was happening. That night, she kissed my cheek when she walked through the door, said she bumped into an old coworker at the park, said she might start yoga again. Then she asked what I wanted to watch on Netflix, as if my world wasn't quietly splintering behind my eyes. I nodded, said nothing. Watched her scroll through shows while the image of that card replayed in my mind like a personal horror film on loop. She laughed at something on the screen, but I didn't hear it. I was staring at her wrist. She wasn't wearing her wedding ring. Tuesday evening started like any other awkward night in our house lately. Dana pretending not to notice the air between us had turned brittle, and me pretending not to notice how little she was trying to fix it. But what made that night different was the smell. Not her perfume this time. Food. Good food. Garlic, wine, something roasting. Something warm and rich and completely out of place in our cold war of a marriage. When I walked into the kitchen, it was like stepping into a movie set. Candles. Real ones, not the dusty lavender ones we'd had on the shelf since 2018. Dana was standing at the stove, hair pinned up, humming. Again. Always humming lately. She turned around when she heard me, startled, too startled. "Oh, I thought you had your workshop tonight," she said quickly. I didn't. I'd canceled it the week before. "No," I said. "You said you had a late shift." There was a pause, just long enough to matter. Then she smiled too wide. "Right. I forgot. I just wanted to surprise you." But her voice trembled slightly on the last word. I caught it. She moved around me fast, setting the table. Only 2 plates, 2 glasses. No third chair this time, but something still felt off. There was no gift bag in sight, no card. But there was music again, low, jazzy, romantic. Something she would have played for me 5 years ago. I sat down slowly. She poured wine. Red. I hate red. She knows that. She didn't even flinch when I didn't take a sip. "So," she said, eyes darting toward the hallway every few seconds. "How was your day?" I didn't answer. I just looked at her dress, her lipstick, the way she'd set out fresh flowers. It was too much effort for someone she barely acknowledged last weekend. That's when I knew. This dinner wasn't meant for me. It was meant for him. He was supposed to be here. And I had interrupted. I waited until she was halfway through her salad before I leaned forward and asked, "Did he cancel?" She froze. Her fork stopped midair. "Excuse me?" "Colton," I said calmly. "Was he supposed to be here tonight?" Dana blinked. Her mouth opened, closed, then came the lie. "What are you even talking about? You've never made this kind of dinner for me. Not since year 2. You lit candles, bought red wine. You hate red wine. I hate red wine. But he doesn't, does he?" She stood up suddenly, chair scraping the floor. "You're being paranoid again." I leaned back, swallowing the bitter knot in my throat. "I saw the gift bag in your car." I read the card. She didn't ask which card. She didn't ask what bag. She didn't say it wasn't hers. She just said, "You had no right." That's what she was angry about. Not the betrayal, not the secret, the invasion. "I had no right," I repeated, laughing bitterly. "You're standing in our kitchen, feeding me a meal meant for another man, and I'm the one who crossed the line?" Her eyes welled up, but I didn't believe the tears, not this time. And then she whispered something that shattered me. "You were never supposed to find out this way." I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling while Dana slept beside me, her back turned, like always now. Her breathing was steady, peaceful, like the conversation over dinner hadn't happened, like she hadn't looked me in the eyes and confessed, in her own way, that she'd been planning to give a piece of our life to someone else. But it was what she said that kept looping in my head. "You were never supposed to find out this way." Not, "It's not true." Not, "I'm sorry." Just that. An accidental reveal of a plan that was supposed to happen differently, cleaner, hidden. Maybe even after she'd already left. By morning, I had a new problem. I didn't know what I wanted anymore. Did I want her to apologize? Did I want her to leave? Did I want to fight for a woman who had clearly chosen someone else when I wasn't looking? I didn't know, but I did know one thing. She wasn't done. That evening, she left the house again, claiming she had to run by the office. Another emergency. Always something. I nodded and watched her leave without asking any questions. That's what she wanted now. No questions. But 15 minutes later, I followed her. I didn't plan it. I didn't even put on proper shoes. I just grabbed my keys and drove. I kept a few cars behind, heart pounding like I was some kind of detective in a cheap soap opera. She didn't go to the office. She pulled into a residential street I didn't recognize. Parked, got out. Walked 2 houses down, and stood at the door like she'd been there before, like she knew exactly which potted plant hid the spare key. I waited. I shouldn't have. I should have turned around, but I didn't. And 20 minutes later, when she came back out to grab something from her car, her phone slipped from her purse and hit the pavement. She cursed, bent down, picked it up, and accidentally tapped the speakerphone button. I heard his voice. It was faint, but clear through the cracked window of my car. "Did he suspect anything?" Colton asked. Dana laughed softly, a sound I hadn't heard in months. "He always suspects, but he never does anything." And that was the moment everything changed for me. Not when I read the email, not when I saw the card, not even when she lit candles for a man who wasn't me. Number. It was that sentence. He never does anything. That's who I had become in her eyes. Predictable, weak, silent. A man who absorbs betrayal like a sponge and just quietly drips in the corner. I didn't follow her inside. I didn't slam my fist against the door. I just sat there in my car, my hands trembling on the wheel, and whispered to myself, not anymore. Because maybe I wasn't the kind of man who screamed, or cheated back, or plotted revenge. But I could be the kind of man who walked away, with everything she never thought I'd take. I didn't leave the next day. I waited 3 more. That might sound weak to some people, but when you've spent over a decade building a life with someone, when every drawer in your house contains pieces of both your pasts, it takes time to stop mourning a future that was never going to happen. So, I watched her move around the house like nothing was wrong. She'd smile at me sometimes, not out of love, but out of convenience. She'd touch my shoulder passing by, like it would keep the illusion of us alive a little longer. And maybe it worked. Until Thursday. Thursday morning, I dropped her off at her job. She kissed my cheek and thanked me for the ride. She didn't notice I didn't respond. She didn't ask why the trunk was empty, or why I double-locked the door behind her, because I wasn't coming back. I didn't take much, just the essentials, some clothes, my documents, a few photos, only the ones where she looked at me like she used to, before everything dulled. I left the rest, the furniture, the gifts, the wedding album gathering dust in the closet. I didn't want it. I didn't want to carry pieces of a life that had already expired. But I did leave something. On the kitchen table, beside the salt shaker she always complained was crooked, I placed an envelope. Inside was the note. No accusations, no insults, just the truth, written slowly, clearly, honestly. You were right. I stopped trying. But so did you. You just did it in smaller ways, quieter ways. I thought silence meant peace, but it turns out silence is where love goes to die. I heard you laughing with him, and I heard you not saying my name. I wish things were different, but since they're not, I'm choosing myself now. I won't hate you, I won't chase you, I just won't be here anymore. She called me 3 hours later. I didn't pick up. She messaged me that night, said she was sorry, said she wanted to talk. But by then I had already signed the lease on a small apartment across town. Nothing fancy. 1 bedroom, tiny balcony, creaky floors. But it was mine. A week later, I got a package at my new place. No return address. Inside was the card I had found in the gift bag, the one she'd written to Colton, but she'd crossed out the original message and written something new. Maybe breathing on your own is better. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. Because for the first time in months, I was actually breathing again. Thank you for staying with this story through all 8 parts. You're watching Reddit Confessions, where real stories find real voices. Now, we want to hear from you. Have you ever walked away from something broken and found peace waiting on the other side? Tell us in the comments a historical moment, big or small, when someone made a quiet decision that changed everything. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your own truth. Someone out there needs it more than you think.